So today we are going to be reviewing the highly anticipated Suicide Squad. So far, all we've heard about it is that it sucks. So, but we are going to go with an open mind and hopefully
So, seeing a movie that you think is gonna suck is the best way to see a movie.
Because it's like, it can only
then
get
if it
better
gets,
from here.
if it's even a little good, you're like,
This is fine.
That's
Okay?
fine.
So, we're all ready to go see it, and we'll let you guys know
Yeah.
what we think.
Okay. So, we're back from seeing the movie. I thought it was like, okay.
To be honest, I had like almost no emotion through the entire thing. It wasn't like I was angry about it. I wasn't excited about it. I wasn't thrilled by anything. I was just like,
Yeah, I kind of felt like I expected to hate it, and I just was like, this is fine. Like,
yeah, I didn't hate
it
it.
was like mildly entertaining. Like, it was just a lot of people in
Fighting.
relationships. Like, the whole movie was about relationships.
And it weirdly focused a lot on like Will Smith's character, which I thought was like a little odd because I feel like I kind of thought it would focus more on like Harley Quinn, and it focused like a lot on like Deadshot, like a lot.
I guess he's like the main character.
Yeah, I would consider him, but when you watch the commercials, you kind of don't really get that.
Harley Quinn is a big like advertisement point
Yeah.
because people are like obsessed with her.
Yeah,
Or like several women dressed up like her.
yeah, it was.
Did you see that woman that wasn't wearing pants?
Yeah, I was like, whoa, that's a little startling. We're at a movie.
I was like, it's a little intense. Like,
For a movie.
I
but-
guess you do you, but I was like,
Yeah.
it was just surprising to see a very white butt.
Yeah, like someone that was literally wearing like no pants, which was like,
It's, you know, just a little startling. I was just a little startled.
but yeah.
From this point on, there'll be spoilers.
Yeah.
So if you haven't seen it, don't watch it unless you want spoilers. That's, you know, your choice as a pre-adult or young adult or teenager. I just like, it's so weird. Like, I expected to have so much like negative commentary about it, but I don't have as much as I expected to have, I guess.
It was
People were
just-
saying it was really sexist, but I kind of didn't really get that. I mean, there were parts that were definitely sexist, but I didn't feel like it was the movie. I just felt like those specific characters were a little sexist.
Yeah, I mean like Harley Quinn, like
Or
her
like,
character.
yeah, like Will Smith.
Yeah,
And like the, you know, just like certain people will say like sexist stuff, and it's like, oh, it's not really the movie. It's just like,
yeah.
if you
there
have
was
like sexist characters, they're gonna say sexist
stuff,
shit.
but like the only part that really made me like, I was like, oh, this is like really uncomfortable, kind of cringy, was the part in the like club where they're like, he's like basically selling her off, and like, but he is like saying, and I was just like, oh, it made me feel really like creepy.
Yeah, that like made me really grossed out. Jared Leto in general like really disgusts me, especially as the Joker. So like any scene he was in like made me
I
cringe.
hated their characters. The Joker and Harley Quinn, they were horrible because Harley Quinn, everything she said was the most forced thing that I've ever heard someone say ever. It was like, let's say something crazy, and you're like,
It's
it just
that like
sounded
typical like, you know, like teen kid thing. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm so quirky, I'm so random, but it was like,
you know, like, no,
and I felt like the Enchantress was really forced as well.
oh my god, the end part with her where she's like, she just kept doing this
And I was
movement, and I was like, what the fuck are you doing with your body right now?
Yeah, that was,
It was
just
the
like really
cringiest thing to watch, was like, watch her be like, come on in, blah, blah, blah. But she was like talking in this like voice, and it was like her lips weren't matching up with what she was saying, and I was like, I don't mind Cara Delevingne, but this character was just terrible. Like, it was just not a really good character.
There were parts of it that I really enjoyed, but like,
Yeah, there
you could
was-
tell it was the director's fault and like not her, and that's why I
Yeah.
think that I was like, that's what I noticed in that scene where she's like doing the weird thing, where I was like, this is totally something that a director,
Be
I
like,
mean, the
do
director is
some,
the
like-
writer, he's the same thing, where it's like, oh yeah, let's do this like sexy thing.
Yeah,
It's like,
no, I mean, it wasn't her, like, the parts that she acted well, I mean, like, they were good.
There were parts that were just like cool.
But there was just like a lot of it, like they didn't do her character very good justice, and then they're like, oh, she's just gone.
Yeah,
and I'm
which
like,
sucks, because I'm like, was the most interesting character of that entire thing.
Yeah. But like
By
Harley
far.
Quinn, like I'm like, that was bad writing. Like I was like, everything sounded so forced, and like the Joker was just like, I was like, what are you trying to do right now? Like when you watch a movie like where Heath Ledger plays the Joker, and then you try to watch this one, you're just like, oh, that was bad.
Yeah.
Like that was not. You're trying to be all like suave and blah 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 and like crazy, and you're just like, you missed the mark. Like you just missed it.
I felt like he was supposed to come off like sexy, and
yeah. And he was it was just a miss. Like, and their romance, like, I didn't get their romance as much as I got, like, you know, the romance between the like fire guy and his wife that he killed. Like they somehow did that way better than like Harley Quinn and Joker.
Their relationship is supposed to be like really abusive and like fucked up, which I got that like from it. What it is like actually supposed to be, because it's like, you know, it's not supposed to be like loving. It's supposed to be like he like
a lot of
tortures
people
her.
really like their relationship, like
That's
as far
fucked.
as like love.
That's fucked, because he like tortures her. You're
Yeah.
like, this is an abusive relationship, and they portrayed that well. Like you get that feeling a lot more than I think people like want them to. Like I feel like a lot of people want them to be like, they're the OTP, and it's like, no, they're.
But I just felt like they maybe wanted it to be a little bit more like.
I just felt like they wanted
love.
it to be like sexier.
Yeah, like sexier. Something like there was something they were trying to give to me, and I felt like I didn't get it.
Yeah.
Like I was just like they don't. I don't know. I'm like, I don't like Jared Leto's Joker. I was like,
It was terrible.
it was just
really
like
bad.
uncomfortable. He wasn't sexy. He wasn't like mysterious. It wasn't like when I watched like Batman with Heath Ledger, and I was like, wow, I'm kind of into you. And I'm like, he wasn't even trying to be sexy. He was just like kind of crazy, like in a fun way.
Yeah,
Like, I
I'm
don't
just
know.
like
It was
unimpressed.
and they just like used the soundtrack like a lot.
Oh
Like,
yeah, that was another thing I was gonna notice. I was like, did they spend all their fucking money on music? Because they had like 50 songs, and it was all like popular, well-known songs that are gonna be expensive to use in a movie. And you're like,
yeah,
it should have spent that money on your story and not
every second, and your CGI, because there were some moments of the CGI like effects that were really, really not. They were just, you could tell they weren't quite there. They were like.
And it was
I
like
could see the green screen almost, like
the overuse of slow-mo in the movie
Oh my
was
God.
almost painful to
the
watch.
ending scene with the slow-mo. I was just like, are you fucking
Have
kidding
you ever
me?
seen The Devil's Rejects?
Yeah.
You know, in that movie when like the last scene is like 15 minutes long and it's like completely, so that's what it made me think of, where it's just like,
I was just like, what the like, and it wasn't even like a good slow-mo. Like, you know, it was just like,
yeah, no, it's just
okay, let's
annoying.
go. Like, let's watch the gun. Let's watch her throw the gun. It lands perfectly in his hand. Let's watch the gun go. But you're like, let's not. Like, let's just.
speed it up just a little bit.
But yeah, like the soundtrack, it was like every other character got a new song. And it was really cool.
And some of them got like 2 or 3 songs.
Yeah, I mean, it was really cool, the use of the soundtrack. But you could tell they almost relied too much on the soundtrack.
That's what I was gonna say. It's like, it's really cool, and it makes you feel like, oh, this is fun. Like, I'm having a good time right now.
Yeah.
And you could tell that they were using that with the lack of stuff that they had.
Yeah, because
they had these like, oh, fun graphics, like the way they introduce characters is really cool. Like they have the like stuff that pops up.
And then yeah, like the thing that was really cool.
And I'm like, this is really awesome, but like, this isn't a story. This is just like graphics and music. You know, it's like a music video.
Yeah, it was like an extended music video, basically.
Yeah. Like those music videos that have like random parts that aren't covered with music, and you just like skip through them to see the rest of the music video.
Yeah,
That's
and it's like a long
was.
story, like maybe like one of those cool 10-minute long music videos that's like a really cool story. But yeah, it was just like every other thing, it was like a new song, and you're like, where? I mean, the story was technically there, like they had a plot, but did I feel any emotions for anybody? No. Did I think Will Smith was awkward? Kind of, yeah.
I felt like all of them were
They
like...
weren't. They were just awkward.
The only guy that I didn't feel like portrayed his character awkwardly was the fire guy.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
He did, like, so good.
He was probably the best one of all
He
of
was
them.
just, like, this guy that had, like, done all this bad shit, and then he did something, like, so bad that he couldn't come back from, and then he was just like, I'm not gonna do this anymore. And I was like, I really love your character. And I was like,
I felt like he was believable. Like,
Yeah.
the rest of them I didn't. You know, and it's not like it was all bad. Like, that's the thing about the movie, is it was like, there were parts that I thoroughly enjoyed.
yeah.
But it's just like, there were key things that it missed that I kind of expected it to miss. Like, the story. I kind of expected that.
Oh, yeah. And then there was a scene where, like, Batman, I was like, are you giving her CPR, or are you making it
Yeah, oh yeah, that was weird. It was weird that Batman was, like, in it so much.
Yeah.
And
then they had, like, they talked about the Flash scene that was his cameo, and it was literally, like, I blinked and I almost missed it.
Yeah.
Like, his little cameo. But yeah, Batman was in it a lot.
It was just very weird. And Superman wasn't in it at all.
No, because he's dead. But yeah, that scene was weird because he, like, goes down, and I really think he was making out with her. And
Yeah,
I
well,
was
he
like,
immediately is like moving his head around.
Yeah.
So you're like, it's okay, whatever, I'm into it. No, I'm kidding.
I was like, I guess if this is what you want me to feel, I'm down. But, like,
I would prefer for her to be with Batman than the
I mean,
Joker.
I'm fine if that's where we're going, but I was just confused because I feel like obviously we haven't had a movie with Harley Quinn, Margot Robbie style. So you can't just jump into her making out with Batman and be like, what's going on? Like,
And that was like one of the things I was disappointed in, is that, you know, I don't know a whole lot about Harley Quinn, but I feel like I know a pretty good amount. And I felt like Margot Robbie was a really good casting choice for this role. But the writing and the directing were so, like, awkward. Like, it wasn't...
Yeah.
It was the same thing with the Enchantress thing, where I'm like, I don't even feel like it's her. I feel like the way that it's written is just, like, poorly executed.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like all the casting was pretty spot on.
I mean, it's the same thing I feel about Superman, where I'm like, Henry Cavill is the perfect Superman.
Yeah.
But they just can't fucking get those movies right, so...
Yeah.
It's like, you're
it was
messing
just,
this up.
It was just awkward, and, like, they were trying to do the whole, like, she's like, oh, pudding, and it's like she almost didn't have the emotion towards the Joker that she was supposed to have either.
Yeah.
So it was like you just kind of missed all of this stuff where it was just, like, super kind of just weird.
Yeah. It's just like...
And a lot of, like, the really interesting parts, or, like, the funny jokes were in the commercial.
Yeah.
Like, the trailers. Like, if you've seen the trailers, you've basically seen this movie. Like...
Which, okay, there's, like, a couple things, like, whenever he, like, squishes the Enchantress heart, she's like, you don't have the balls, and everybody laughed, and I was like, that's...
Yeah, I didn't
That was poor writing. That was a poor decision to
I
make.
didn't laugh almost through the entire... Like, I think
There was
like,
one part
scene
that made me laugh, but I can't remember what it was.
I can't recall, but, like, there was other parts that were in the trailers that people laughed at, and since I've watched all the trailers a couple times, I was like, I'm ready for this.
I only watched one trailer. I was like, I'm not going to watch any of them.
I just watched the first one, but I think I've seen it a couple times, like, rewatched it. I don't know if it was because it was an ad or something, but
Yeah.
I've seen the jokes where she's like, oh, I'm getting dressed, and everyone stops, and it's like, what's going on? And you're like, you get naked. So
It's just like Harley Quinn, you know, I get it. She's a cool character. Like, she's enjoyable to watch, and you're like, oh, this is, like, kind of fun, you know, to have a character that's sort of nuts. Like, that's always fun. But, like, I just feel like it was so poorly executed.
Yeah.
And it makes me mad because I'm like, you had a really good person to play this role. Like, you actually had a person that could portray this in the right way, and you fucked it a little bit.
yeah, basically, like, everything had an awkward delivery. Like, the part where he's like, oh, talking about the katana woman, and he's like saying some things, and then he's like, and her sword can trap the souls of the people.
Yeah.
And it was just like the weirdest, awkwardest delivery of like, oh, by the way, we should throw in, like, why she's so special. Like, let's just throw that in. Oh, we didn't write that in already? Let's just add it in. That was probably part of the refilms. Like, oh, by the way, we should probably say where this woman came from.
I feel like the most awkward scene was when Will Smith's character suddenly decides to help the guy, and he's like, I'm gonna carry you in there. We're gonna be like a book of the Bible. And it's like...
Yeah. I don't
so
really
painful to watch.
Will Smith is not someone I would go to watch a movie specifically for him, because a lot of the movies he's in, he's just like,
he plays a lot of the same characters.
Like, oh, you guys must be joking, and you're just like, okay, Will Smith.
It's just like everything in that movie was so close. Like every line that they had was like so close to being good, and it would just like right under that mark to where that was like cringeworthy.
Yeah.
It wasn't like the worst thing I've ever seen. It was like, it's so close, like it's almost there, and it just kind of lets you down a little bit. But I would probably watch it again. Like, it was enjoyable. It was like entertaining. Yeah. And it's fun. Like, it's a fun movie for sure. That's like probably the biggest aspect of it, and they think they know that. That's why they throw in all that shit that's just completely useless.
Yeah.
Let me give you a rundown of these characters while we play like really cool music.
Yeah, I mean, it was fun, and if someone wants to go see it, I would go see it again. But like I said, the entire time watching it, it wasn't like I expected to hate it or like be mad at it or something or anything, and literally the entire time I was just like, that was kind of cool. That was cool. Got to the end, and I was just like, I literally have no emotions about this. This is not like when we saw Warcraft and we both had like
tons of stuff to say.
Like,
and that's like the weird thing is I expected to have so much stuff to say about it.
I'm like, this is not a good movie where we spend 45 minutes talking about it, and it's not a bad movie where we spend 45 minutes talking about it because it's so bad and there's so much stuff. It was like, the plot was there, you know, it had a consistent story. They gave a little bit of background about everyone.
Yeah.
You know, you have this like Viola Davis's character who's just kind of like, well, I'm like, we don't really know her motivation, why she like murdered some people at one point. I was like, okay, I guess.
Yeah, just like.
So, but I mean, it was like, the story was there, costuming was nice, set was okay, you know, like, the actors are obviously cast well, but the writing wasn't really good.
I think that was like the killer, is like the writing and like the direction of it, where you know, you could see his like style of directing, that it was just like causing this movie to go downhill.
Yeah, it's like,
because I feel like if they had somebody else directing it, even with the same script, it could have been done better.
Yeah. And like, yeah, because I'm like, if the actors had a little bit more direction, maybe Harley Quinn's awkward lines of crazy would have come out better.
Yeah, and if they didn't like try and focus on them so much, you know, like every time she said a line, they like stopped the music, and everybody's got to focus on her, and everyone's like, oh no, what's happening? Yeah. Like, if they had kind of made it more subtle, I feel like that kind of would have improved it a lot.
Yeah, that would have probably helped. And then like, they just spent like, the rest of the character just spent the entire time calling her crazy, so you're like, and then she's like, you're my family, and I'm like, you are so sad. Like, you're such a sad character, because
really is.
You're just like,
I think that's like the worst part about Harley Quinn, is that she is like very like depressing to watch. Like, she's just like tortured by this man, and like just, you know, completely lost her mind, and it was just like, I don't know, it makes me depressed. I'm like, oh
yeah,
God.
I don't think like Harley Quinn.
And everybody's so like, oh, she's so sexy. She's like a sex symbol, and I'm like,
no, she's like an abused woman. I don't know. Yeah, she doesn't like, her character doesn't really do anything to me for me, because she's like this sad woman where you're like, everyone's calling you crazy. Everyone just wants to like look at your body, and like, I don't know. That just makes me sad for her.
Yeah, me too.
It was just kind of, it was one shoulder shrug.
Yeah, it was fine.
I would watch it again if someone wanted to go see it.
I would say
I'm not really
like a C+ probably.
Yeah.
It was like fine.
You know,
it was fine.
It's not a Captain America Civil War.
Nothing could be that, really.
Like,
but
let's
like,
be honest.
DC is really trying to step up their game
with
all of this shit coming out, and like the end thing is like the Viola Davis's character. I feel like I don't know any of the character. I know all the actors' names. Anyways, she's like giving Batman the files to find Justice League. So they're like,
they're trying to
everything
interconnect and do the end things. They're trying to do what Marvel's done, but Marvel is about 100 steps ahead of them with how they've executed their videos.
This is good. Like, they're moving in the right direction. Yeah. This is what people like. And like,
it's a little more quirky, a little more fun, not
and
so
to have,
serious.
cameos. Like, people fucking love cameos. Like, they had Aquaman's cameo and Superman versus Batman, and then obviously they had Batman, a bunch of this, and The Flash, and it's like, oh, this is cool. Like, people like that. That's a reason to go see that movie. Cameos. And so I really did enjoy that part of it. I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, I'm impressed, and I'm excited for the next movie.
Extend the cameos just a bit, because the Flash one, literally, like, it was a flash. Like, it was 2
that's
seconds
how Aquaman's
long.
Was in the first. And
yeah,
Batman
but they just
Superman.
need to. That's like a thing that I would suggest they tweak, is make it just 2 seconds longer. So where, like, you can't turn your head and you miss it, and then they're like, did you see the Flash? And I'm like, what? Like, I almost didn't register. It was so quick, I almost didn't even register who he was supposed to be. Because it's like, he's robbing the bank and the other guy's trying to rob the bank, and then you're like, wait, is that Iron Man? No, is that Flash, it's the Flash. And you're like, I almost missed registering him as somebody that I was supposed to recognize, because he's obviously a new guy playing the Flash.
Right. Well, they don't really, if you don't, like, watch the TV show, like, you've never really seen it before.
Yeah, like the costume
you're not going to recognize
use.
that, like, I mean, if you watch the show, you become very familiar with it, because that's the whole show. I mean, it's, like, super long, and he's in every single episode in this costume, and so you become very familiar with it. But if you don't watch the TV show, you're not going to get that right away. And so you kind of need a little bit more there for the people who do not watch the television shows.
And it's not the same guy from the television
No, it's not the same guy, though you can barely tell in the suit, because it's, like, the same shit.
But, like, wouldn't really recognize the outfit as much, as I've only ever watched cartoon Justice League, so.
And another thing that's, like, not really about this movie, but they really should have waited to release Justice League trailer until after this movie came out.
Yeah.
Because that Flash trailer that Flash cameo would have been way cooler if I didn't already know he was going to be in the next, like, movie. And then it was like, the Flash, like, what the fuck? Like, that would have been really cool. That would have been something really exciting. So they should have waited just, like, a couple weeks. Just release Wonder Woman at Comic-Con, wait a couple weeks on Justice League.
That's their other problem, is, like, DC has a timing issue.
Yeah.
Like, they've literally been talking about Suicide Squad for, like, 2 years.
Yeah, it's just...
And it got to a point where I was like, this movie needs to fucking come out so it can be over, because they've been talking about it for so long. It's, like, a timing issue. It's not like, oh, we know there's going to be a Black Panther movie or something like that, like, 2 years ago. But it's like, you just knew that it was going to come out, but you just now are starting to get, like, stuff about, like, cast.
Right.
And, like, blah,
well,
blah,
you
blah.
like, what you want is you want something like Star Wars, for example, where you're like, I know episode 8 is coming out next year, in next December. I'm aware that that's happening. I'm getting clues like, oh, they just finished, shooting, but I don't know anything about this story, and I'm not going to know anything about it until maybe like March of next year.
Yeah, exactly.
At the earliest. And so, like, that's what they should have done, is, like, and they released way too many trailers. Like, that is a killer for any project. It's like, you get 2 complete trailers and, like, 2 TV spot type of trailers, and that's it. And, like, don't put all your shit in the trailer, because that is, like,
it was killer.
That is a big problem for them. They did the same thing with Batman versus Superman, where you were like, I just saw this entire movie.
And I knew why'd you
bring Wonder Woman
and
into
I knew
the trailer?
Aquaman was going to be in it, and you're just like, you're really bad with your timing. Like, you need to
They're like, the advertising team is like, needs to be
so
replaced.
gung-ho, like, that it's just like chill, because I was just ready for this movie. Was literally, I think, supposed to come out like last year, and they like kept pushing it back, and then it was just like, okay, let's get this over with, like, come on, like, like,
past the point of, like, excitement. And it's like, really, you don't want to have, like, a trailer for a movie that's going to come out in 2 years. Like, you don't want to have stuff like that. You want to have, like, little clues every, like, 6 months.
Yeah.
And that's it. Because if you have too much stuff, you're flooded with this. By the time you see the movie, it's going to let down your expectations no matter what, because you've been building it up in your mind for 2 years or however long it's been. And I'm like, this is a problem. Yeah. And I'm like, if they had not done this, and I had gone into it seeing, like, one trailer and not overly been advertised this movie, I probably would have liked it a little bit more. I mean, it still would have had the pitfalls of the story, but
a lot of the jokes, like I said, the jokes and some of the action scenes, you already knew that were happening, because there's been 80 trailers, and people have been making GIF sets, they've been, whatever, screenshotting, etc., etc., and so it's like, well, I knew she was going to make this little hot joke, and so it, like, lost the momentum of, like, being like, oh, that was kind of funny. the third time I heard it, it was no longer funny. Like,
and like reusing the same like I know you failed. Like the whole thing where it's like we're bad guys. It's what we do. And I'm like, that is a great line. Why did you fuck it up so bad?
Yeah, and
how
they
did
used
you manage
it about
to fuck that up
5
so bad?
different times,
Yeah,
like in the movie, and you're just
like you want it to be that one line where people like cheer when they hear it.
Yeah.
You know, like when you see like a Marvel movie and there's like always one line where everyone's like, oh fuck, you know, it's crazy, and everybody loses their minds. And that's what you want with that kind of line, and you don't want it to be like, oh,
yeah.
And then we move along with the story, like, which is what I felt like the reaction was in our theater.
Yeah.
A couple people were like, ha ha ha, and that was like it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, there wasn't like, I don't know. It just was fine. It was a fine movie.
It's just fine.
It was just fine. Like it was just fine. Like it was fine.
Yeah.
I mean, like they're working on it, and they're trying to be a little bit more quirky and fun and whatever, but they're failing at some stuff like a lot.
Yeah.
Just enough to where you're like, you know, sorry DC, not this time.
Yeah. They're like getting better, like gradually. You can tell their movies are slightly improving, and this was a huge improvement from the Superman
I mean, it was
movies.
just, it was more lighthearted, you know, a little more funny.
It wasn't a fucking like 3-hour movie. It was just 2 hours. That was it, which is all you need, unless you're like, oh, this is a crazy story, like Captain America Civil War, where it's like, this is going to be 2.5 hours, but it's not going to be boring, it's not going to drag at any point, because all of this is important to the story. But if you don't have shit that's not important, cut it out, which is the problem that they have with Batman versus Superman, where it's like, there was so much unnecessary shit in that movie, and so it ended up being like, you know, 2.5 or 3 hours if you watch the extended version, and it's like, cut this shit out. Nobody needs this. Nobody wants this. This is destroying your franchise. So I felt like they did better on this one with it didn't drag as much. There still were scenes where I was like, okay.
Which is surprising in a 2-hour movie that you have scenes that are like, how much longer? Like, I looked at my watch and I was like, that's
Never
not a good
sign.
sign.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, it's only 2 hours. Like, you know, that's like nothing. Like,
so it did drag a little bit, but not nearly as bad. So I'm like, I have hope for the future movies, and hopefully they will be better.
Yes,
we will improve.
We will help you if you need help.
Hire me.
Hire me.
I will advertise your movies for you.
Which means I won't advertise them at all.
Yeah. Until like
a week before. Hey, by the way, this is coming out.
Yeah. You know this movie that we released an article about a year ago? It's coming out next month. It's
like maybe do something like a month in advance. I can do this for you. We'll help you.
Or announce your movies at the very end of your other movies. Like, you know, if you're like, oh, we're gonna do Justice League, okay, don't fucking release a trailer for it. Don't talk about it in Batman versus Superman. Wait until Suicide Squad comes in, and in that last scene, be like, oh, I'm starting, you know, this thing, and you're like, that's Justice League. Like, people know this shit. Like, people are fans of DC just like they are of Marvel. They know that Justice League is part of this. You gotta wait for that. Don't just release the trailer with another trailer. That was just bad.
Yeah.
Bad marketing.
That's like what Marvel is very good at. Is they like,
oh, the
like, hammer. That's the hammer.
Yeah. Or it's like, you know, Spider-Man. When this like shows up, and it's like Spider-Man will return, and you're like, oh shit, they're making a Spider-Man movie. Like, that's great.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. Like, that's how you do it. You know.
Yeah.
I would hope that like DC gets to the point where they're as good as Marvel, but separate from them, and not in a way that's like we're trying to be really edgy, like we're trying to be edgelords over here.
They're
like,
trying
I would
to
want to see them be different, but also just as good.
Yeah, they're trying to be different right now, but they're doing it in the bad way. Instead of like, let's be different, but also like we have similar things that we do, but also try not to copy their movies. You know, like now we're making Wonder Woman. That's like very similar to the first Captain America,
which is like fine.
Which is fine, but you're like,
but you don't always want to be fine. Like that's,
like come
on.
The
message here is like Suicide Squad was fine. It was not terrible. It was fine, and you want your movies to be more than fine.
You want them to be movies where people are like, I will go see this by myself because it was so good.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch this 4 times.
Well, I guess if my dad wants to go see it, I'll go see it again.
Right, or like, you know, somebody wants to like drag you to it. You're like,
it's fine. It's fine.
It's like that's not what you want. But like, I feel like they're gonna get there. I have hopes for them.
We might be dead by that time. But
yeah, it might be 100 years from now, but we,
they're working on it. They're working really hard.
They have improved, which is something. And, like I said, it wasn't all bad. Like, we rag on it a lot, but it was entertaining. Like, it was...
It was fine. I mean, I watched it till the end. I didn't get up and leave, so... And
almost never do that.
The Alamo Drafthouse had a really good shake to go with it. So
Alamo Drafthouse. Fucking bring water is what people ask you. That is the only problem I have with going there, is that every time I ask for more water, somebody picks it up and they're like, okay, and then they never bring water out. And I'm like, I'm just really thirsty. Please help me.
But yeah.
So if you're listening, Alamo Drafthouse.
Also, some free tickets.
But that was a bomb shake. Okay?
Yeah, it was
good.
so good. Yeah, so it's good. One thumb slightly not down.
Just like 75-degree angle. It's fine. Okay, so let us know what you guys think. We really, really want to know, because we don't really know anyone else is gonna go see this. So
let us know.
Let us know what you guys think, and let us know what we should go see next and review.
Bye.